Dillian the Body Snatcher right here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
So the former heavyweight champion of the world in George Foreman, who's had pretty much 2 careers within his lifetime, and he has revealed that he spoke to Deontay Wilder on the phone and he gave him some words of advice, because obviously he's been in the situation with Deontay Wilder that, for example, Wilder, he lost to Tyson Fury. That's his first loss on his resume. That was a fight that he was supposed to win, according to a lot of people. But with George Foreman, when he went over to Africa and took on Muhammad Ali, again, that was a fight that he was supposed to have won, but he ended up getting knocked out, much like Deontay Wilder did. Well, Wilder, he wasn't on the floor, whereas George Foreman was, as Team Wilder threw in the towel. But a loss is a loss, and that was their first losses of their careers. So with George Foreman, he understands and he knew exactly what it was, that him going into Muhammad Ali fight with all the things that kind of went on, and of course how he was feeling after the fight, which he went into severe depression and kept coming up with excuse after excuse after excuse. And now he says that what made it worse was the excuses. He kept looking for excuses rather than go, okay, this is what happened, this is how I'm going to fix it. Okay, so George Foreman, he understands what it is that Wilder went through, and I think that George Foreman, with the conversation that he had with Deontay Wilder, that would suggest to me that Wilder is actually looking to bring somebody else in to the team or change his team altogether. He's already put out a statement a couple of maybe 5-6 weeks ago actually now, where he says that he's going to be keeping Mark Breland. Mark Breland, excellent coach, but for some reason Wilder just doesn't really listen to Mark Breland. But he says that even though Mark Breland, he threw in the towel, he understood that it was for his own good. He was saving Wilder for another day, and he's keeping Mark Breland. So bringing in, say, George Foreman, or even if he doesn't bring in George Foreman, you can see that he is definitely looking to bring in somebody new and somebody experienced, much like Anthony Joshua did as well. He added a couple more people to his team, so he had boxing purists and that around him, people who could break down what happened in the first fight, see what had to be done in the rematch, and Joshua followed it to the T. All right, and can Deontay Wilder follow it something to a T? I'm not too sure, because when Wilder, if he ever gets into trouble again, he's just going to revert to type, isn't he? And he's not going to be able to land that big punch, and then Tyson Fury is just going to maul him probably easier in the third fight than what he's done in the second fight. And all the reaching around right now with all the Wilder fans, not all the Wilder fans, but a section of the Wilder fans coming up with glove gate and this, that and the other, which is absolutely ludicrous. You've got to be an idiot if you believe all that kind of stuff. But it's making Wilder look bad, making him look really, really weak. Even other people, other professionals like Mike Tyson was telling Wilder to stop crying and grow up, because he doesn't realise that it's not actually Wilder who's been saying all this about Glovegate and all this kind of stuff. So it's actually making Wilder look bad. So George Foreman, that'll be a good move for him. I'm not too sure what it is that George Foreman can really bring in to Deontay Wilder. He's a devastating puncher. Arguably, George Foreman was more heavy-handed than Deontay Wilder, based on the opposition that George Foreman actually fought and stopped, compared to Wilder's weak resume, and it is a weak resume. But George Foreman, he's been there, he's done it. He had to bounce back. He went through a long old time when he was really, really depressed, and as he said before, he kept making up a lot of excuses, and the excuses were unnecessary. And had he not have made all the excuses and had absolute disdain and arguably hatred for Muhammad Ali for the longest time, then who knows, his career may not have had that huge gap in between, because George Foreman was a fantastic fighter, really was. But I don't know whether or not George Foreman is the right guy. George Foreman, he knows what he's looking at in the boxing ring. Okay, he's done plenty of commentary work, he's done punditry work, all that kind of stuff. So he knows what it is that he's looking at. And maybe the likes of a George Foreman will be good to bring into the camp for Deontay Wilder. Somebody who's going to boost him up a bit and not hold back. He's not going to say, oh, well, you know what, all you got to do is wait for that right hand and you've got to do this. It's not your fault. Tyson Fury was leaning all over you. The gloves, the 2015 UCAD test, the suit was too heavy. Any of that, George Foreman will just tell him how it is. You've got your ass handed to you. Now it's time to come back. And that's what Wilder's going to need. He's going to need some brutal honesty. And George Foreman would do that. There are plenty of other people out there as well. I mean, I think that people like Antonio Tarver would have been a good one. Larry Holmes would have been a good one. And there's quite a few, and there isn't no immediate fix for Wilder. He's been doing the same thing for a long time. But Wilder does have, well, he must have in his arsenal somewhere some kind of boxing skill. He was with the American Olympic squad. He had a okay amateur career. It wasn't brilliant, but it was okay and quite short-lived. But he started to listen to those around him, certain fan bases. Oh, he's the most dangerous man on the planet and all this kind of thing. And he started to live into the bubble and just believe in that his own hype, which was always fake. It was always fake hype. He was never very good. He was never very skillful. If he didn't land the right hand, he was always going to lose the fight. And you're not always going to land the right hand. And when you come up against a boxer who knows how to negate the right hand, you're in a whole world of trouble. So Wilder does need to go back to some fundamentals and stick to the game plan if he's going to have any kind of chance. I'm not saying throw away the right hand. Of course not. That's his deadly weapon. But he needs to add other things. He needs to trap Tyson Fury. He needs to make Tyson Fury do certain things so that Fury's open and he can land the right hand. He needs to have a plan B, C, D, and E. But Wilder never does. He has a plan A, land the right hand at some point within 12 rounds, and I'll get the win. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But George Foreman, he seems, he's given the impression that he's getting on quite well with Wilder. We know George Foreman, he offered to help Anthony Joshua as well when Anthony Joshua lost to Andy Ruiz Jr. I don't know if Joshua and Foreman had that conversation. I have no idea. And to be honest with you, I'm not really too sure of the training aspect of George Foreman. Has he trained fighters before? Not that I'm aware of. I mean, he may well have done, but you know, just because you were once a good fighter doesn't make you a good trainer. But again, I mean, if Wilder is looking to overhaul his team, I mean, just look at the basics right there. You've got Shelly Finkel, manager, JD's manager/trainer. Do you really need JD's? And you've got Al Heyman as well as your advisor. Do you really need all those people? And of course, Mark Breland. Plenty of people on the payroll that maybe shouldn't be on the payroll. And it does seem to me that the person who doesn't really have Wilder's best interest at heart, especially judging on the post-fight press conference with the fact that JD's was virtually blaming Mark Breland for throwing in the towel, saying how he shouldn't have thrown in the towel. He had Shelly Finkel up on the apron having a go at Mark Breland rather than checking to see if Wilder was okay. JD's showed his management side rather than his compassionate boxing trainer relationship. So for me, if I was Wilder, I'd probably look at getting rid of JD's, to be honest with you. That's a guy you don't need on the payroll. You just don't. But anyway, listen, that's my thoughts on it all. Of course, you drop me yours. Do you think the addition of George Foreman is going to help Wilder at all? As I said before, I think that it doesn't really matter who Wilder brings into the team. He's always going to be that guy who will revert to type. He's always going to be that flawed guy. And those flaws have been evident for many, many years. And once you finally step up, they're going to get exposed. And that's exactly what happened. And I would probably predict, as of right now, Fury to do even more of a job on Wilder, especially if Wilder isn't mentally strong, which, again, he's shown in the past he's not mentally strong. You know, he's allowed Tyson Fury to get inside his head and break him down mentally. And then, of course, end up breaking him down physically. And there's plenty of other fighters out there who would just tear Deontay Wilder apart, which is why he never fought Vladimir Klitschko, which is why he never fought Vitaly Klitschko. He never tried to get a fight with David Haye at the time. He never tried, well, he made out that he wanted the Anthony Joshua fight, but clearly he didn't. He was offering him fake 50 millions that weren't real. Even Frank Warren confirmed that he dropped Wilder straight in it. He turned down 120 million take on Anthony Joshua. He's continuously always been trying to freeze out the likes of Dillian Whyte. All these guys, in my opinion, would have beat Deontay Wilder, even when he was supposed to take on Alexander Povetkin. So Povetkin failed an A sample, but passed the B sample, so the fight should have went ahead. He never wanted that work with Alexander Povetkin. At the time, Povetkin, in my opinion, would have mopped the floor with him. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens with George Foreman. Quite what he brings to the table, I'm not too sure, other than experience and words of wisdom in the ear. I think that's what it is that George Foreman will have to bring in to the table. But anyway, I'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. Drop your thoughts below about it. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.